So, Rebbetzin Tamar Tabak says that in the exiled emotions is what we call the parts. There's something called the rise of the holy feminine and appreciating emotions. This is both masculine and feminine work, because you have to work with projection. There's parts of us that we don't like, and then we put it out, and then when we heal the exiled emotions, it actually happens through a relationship. So there's two realms of exiled emotions. One is subconscious and one is superconscious. And there's tools. One, you have to find its opposite. Two, see if you're doing it to yourself. And three, you have to break the need for the external validation. So talking about doing it to ourselves. So let's say sometimes we're in pain, so we'll hurt ourselves in a different area so we don't have to feel that pain. It goes to the extreme where people overeat or have or drink, or you do cut their body open, or even tattoos. So Jennifer Partridge talks about tapping for physical pain. So she says, find a place in your body that hurts, and you'll find an exiled emotion there. So anybody could practice this tapping. There's tapping spots. I'm not sure if I did in a different video, but you go through them. So she says you have to find like the texture. So I was like, oh, in my neck, and it was glassy, sharp, resentful, crunchy. I think I said sharp again. And what was this? In there was a sense that there was no accountability. There was betrayal where I never got an apology. There was fear and then resentment. But if I choose an unavailable person and ignore the signs, then I can see where I'm doing it to myself. So here we went from, that's number 2, for example. So I realized what I'm receiving, what I didn't get then. So we find its opposite. So what am I getting instead of that? Winning, happiness, joy, status, protection, modesty, purity, freedom, attention, even outlandishness. And then break the need for external validation. I found this interesting thing. It's from this woman, Shahida Arabi, who was recommended to me. Her Instagram is Self-Care Warrior, and maybe a year ago or something. So she says there's men become like a back. Let's say, for example, I was using this in the way of a masculine, right? So she says background noise, when something is like, when it's for fun or to be taken out, like how men do it for hookup. She says this is how we start to decenter men. So men could become background noise when it's like when they're useful or when I want to be taken care of, but basically not to let men do that to women, and women don't do it to men. So this is when you are not able to respond because you don't see the person as the center. Like, think of how many people you don't answer. Think of how many lists of people in your phone that you don't answer. And because you're busy, you're flourishing, living life, you have other things the center of your existence. But then someone who, in the dating or in a relationship, wants to be a priority, you might lose your hobbies, your dreams, interests, passions, self-care. So these are not it's like not taking the men's words at face value, never assuming that they're actually looking for a relationship. So the majority are looking for pleasure or trophy or ego stroke. She says that when you evaluate them based on what they actually do. So if you're dealing with not a holy masculine or not a divine masculine, then you can't listen to their words because they don't always say the truth. They're lying to themselves and others, and they will want to be the center of your attention, but they're not going to make you that. They're going to use you for something and not looking to provide. And she says that you evaluate what they're actually doing, if anything at all, and then you become disinterested unless they're impressing you. So the holy feminine should only interact with a masculine when he's rising to the occasion. So while still remaining cautious, you stay away from anyone who's overly obsessed with men. Like if you have friends who are constantly talking about men or pressure you to be in a relationship or just get together to talk about people, they're actually in miserable situations themselves, or people who throw you under the bus for male attention, whether it's a man or a woman. She also says some people move away for somebody, city, country, state. And she says better to avoid all cohabitation with a man and share their breath and share their energy unless there's a marriage involved. You don't give up your career, your education, or basically anything, even if he's a provider, because you don't marry unless it's something where she says you got to be compensated. Like, especially if you're looking at it in modern day, you should sign a prenup that says you're going to be compensated for all labor, pregnancy, and has a strict infidelity clause and a financial payout in the case that you actually get divorced and you've had the babies, or has infidelity. And then she says avoid a pregnancy unless it's something you would authentically do with or without a man, because these days you've had so many women who could handle having a baby without a man, but then they had to prove it to themselves by having a man who didn't do anything. She didn't say it exactly that. She says Man has to have financial resources and emotional stability to provide security long term. So if he does not have financial resources and he does not have emotional stability and there's too much escalation or he's in survival mode, then there's no matter what happens in the relationship, you're not supposed to have babies and get married. And she says you don't accept with somebody like low effort, like just go for a walk, a hike, or coffee, if it's going to be a date, because that could for marriage, because that's something you could do like as a hangout, like these low effort shows the man that he could date multiple people at the same time and get a little taste of this, a little taste of that. He's sampling everyone. What he has to do is put the effort in. For a divine masculine, he has to put the effort in. He can't use his own offer cheaply or date multiple people cheaply. Unless you're insisting on a coffee meetup because you feel safe, or, you say, I just want to like go for a walk because you feel safe. Otherwise, you should be aware of a man who offers that. That's his first offer. And then, so that was the 3. 1, find its opposite. 2, see if you're doing it to yourself. And 3, break the need for external validation. Now, if we go a little deeper in this, I read something. Healing is from Healing Energy Quest on Instagram. Healing is lonely before it's peaceful. You will miss the noise you escaped until you learn to love the silence you created. I think this is the biggest blockage why people don't want to go to the exiled parts, because the exiled parts make noise and blockage. And when you actually heal that, there's a space, and it could feel empty and lonely. Sometimes I felt like so abandoned, even though no one was abandoning me, because there was just not that part of me with that in it anymore. Like I couldn't have something, I couldn't be full of something because I was full of nothing in that place. So remembering there will always be more options is sometimes not always enough to get you through that like bridge. So then I want to share from Shmuel, Samuel 1, chapter 15, first verse. It says, after this, Avshalom outfitted himself with a chariot, horses, and 50 men running before him. So in Rashi, commentator, and on Sanhedrin 21b, they were as honor guards when he rode his chariot, and he had them drink a potion that disintegrated their spleens so that they could run faster, and had the flesh on the soles of their feet removed so they wouldn't feel any pain when running over thorns and thistles. So if you think about it, you could take something in that then makes you numb to the parts of your body that are able to feel pain. So think about that. If you have a part of your body that you numb yourself over there so that you don't have to feel the pain, it doesn't mean you're not getting damaged. So it's a different way to look at this. This is David's son who was rebelling against his father. So if you think about the fact that you wouldn't want to have a part of your body ruined just because you want honor, like if it was your honor, right? So it's like, do I still want to keep that, to jeopardize that part of me and have it become soiled, dirty, impatient, unclear, not peaceful, just so that I could have like honor, like I could be part of something. So it's a question you have to ask yourself, I feel like, in a way, like, do I want to keep this part of me clear, like I want to heal, or do I want to have, chaos over there just so I could, and distraction, just so I don't have to be with myself, God forbid, because there's parts of us that what we called exiled parts, where we put them on other people and we project them. And finally, to make it real, I was, I have something I wrote, what about loving myself and others? So this is the projection part. So this is from a few months ago, maybe 5 months ago. But I wrote, sometimes I feel like I have to be the most powerful one in the room and I can't depend on others. And that's very disappointing for me. So others will become weak, they get distracted, others will let me down. And in those cases, I have to trust God and I'll have to become more reliable too, since what I do matters and what I say matters. So I pray to do what matters and I pray to say what matters. On the one hand, I had such an impact. On the other hand, I believe thoughts that tell me I have no impact on reality, that I'm helpless or powerless to change reality because it was so bad. And I thought I did everything in my power to stop it, but I could not control the situation, and I resisted because I called it pain and bad. So maybe that's a way to take less conscious responsibility to avoid feeling remorse or guilt. So in other words, there's nothing I could do about it, is like learned helplessness. So if we take away the learned helplessness, which is like the story I just said, let's say I'm telling myself I'm powerless, I can't change reality. So then I could find the agency. Am I doing this to myself? So am I putting myself up by trusting someone who's not trustworthy? Am I depending on someone who's not dependable? Did they give me proof that they're dependable? Did I have so much expectation on them that now I become so disenchanted that I don't want to trust anyone, or that it comes between me and God? So this is like the practice in action. And I'll give an example of somebody who So I actually gave an example. So there's somebody who, like, when I stopped feeling like I needed anything from them and I needed them to be powerful or focused, and when I realized that would let me down and disappoint me, actually, when I took that away, I was able to be more present and listen, and I was able to hear someone make jokes and be funny. And then I was also able to hear how somebody was forgiving and So in their laughter and in their forgiveness, I was able to see beyond what was there. So basically, when we make space for these exiled parts, and it comes back to me, I can see how I have laughter and I have what do you call it, forgiveness. And the last thing I'll share is from an SLA meeting, which was sex and love addicts or avoidance. Basically, when it's dysfunctional, where sex and love is not like done in the right way, or you need some education, or your parents got divorced, or you were in a bad relationship, or there's been molestation or abuse, or anything that caused it to feel like it's not where you want it to be. There's a program, so I recommend anybody to check out. It's a 12-step program, so that everything's cut out for you. You just have to follow the guidelines. So I was learning that bad company is worse than being alone, and that wanting a love or a hug as a woman, but then a man could sexualize it. I didn't want to villainize a man or emasculate them. And also this illusion of power and control could lead to confusion, anxiety, and shame, because we don't really have power and control in most areas, except how we choose to show up and what we focus on. Like and then delusional, that I think that if I had a husband and kids, I'd be happy, as if I'm not happy, or as if that could make me happy, even though it wouldn't make me any happier. And then the idea of sex as a means for soothing, but the real issue is an emotional dependency, because once you become touching, then it becomes cloudy and emotional attachment. So then for soothing, you need someone on the outside, and then you could hurt yourself through that. And then there's something about timing aggression and the compulsive, the timing aggression, I think, with men and with my mother. Like, is it really me, or is it my mother, about being on time, about timing, and like trying to get everything done? And I think of my father. And then the fear, the isolation, because of the fear of being vulnerable or rejected that can happen, which somebody would become avoidant. So if somebody's an addict, they also become avoidant, because anything that would make them not feel good, they have to run away from. And finally, this idea of I learned something from the meeting that I went to, where they were talking about that people who are I don't know if it's called just masturbation or orgasming or something, that basically this is like a way that somebody could, it's like a compulsion. And then I witnessed it in a way, in action through somebody, and then just thinking about how even within myself to see the compulsion. And yeah, so basically that's all for today. I wish everybody Shavua Tov and Mevorach and all the best. Bye.